was wondering, I'm having some of the same permitting issues, and we spoke a little before, so you're very helpful with what I have going on in Uxbridge. We just closed on a property in Blackstone, and as I was walking through, doing the final walkthrough, I noticed all these old crusty ionization smoke detectors everywhere. And I said, is there any, I called the agent, I said, there's no way you have the smoke search. They're like, oh no, we have it. So my investor, who's a builder, he knows the Mass Code, he active builder, he's like, there's no way. We went to the Uxbridge Fire Department and spoke to the chief, who said, I don't believe in making the people in my town invest extra money. If the bell rings, we give them a permit. So my builder says, what do I do? And I say, either A, we go after him for the money, because once you own the house, I don't care what the fire department says, if you have a problem, it's gonna come back on you, and God forbid, it comes back on me, because I can't find any way to stick my lawyer in here to put the liability on him. So I just wanted to know, from a building inspector's point of view, how can they do, how can Blackstone say that they don't need to even meet the state code? When we came back from the fire department, I was like speechless. I couldn't believe. I mean, they were, not only were they ionization, I took them down, they were older than 10 years old.
Well, yeah, so there's a couple points there. The photometric thing, that's kind of changed over the years. It wasn't until 98-ish, so you're talking about 20 years ago, did they come in that you needed photoelectric smoke detectors within 20 feet of a water source.
Yes, correct.
The code's kind of morphed in 2006-ish. It then went to that all smoke detectors had to be photometric. So generally what happens, and then the other point you raised is that by manufacturer recommendations, you'd have to look at the specific spec, but generally after 10 years, you're supposed to replace your smoke carbon detectors. The shelf life of those are typically around 10 years, give or take. So those are all valid points, and when you replace them, you should think about bringing them up to today's code. Now, what happens is a lot of fire departments will actually have a listing. So when it comes to re-inspections, it all goes by date. So prior to 1975, smokes they can be battery operated, they can be located in certain locations. Then from 75 to, I think it's 80 something or other, there's a different date. So they all go by dates on where the location of the detectors have to be and what type of detectors have to be. And so some of the, and to be honest with you, I don't know if Westboro actually has the listing of when those dates are, but that's kind of a guideline that a lot of fire departments will use. So depending on the date of the structure, they'll look to see where the devices are. What you're referring to is called a 26.5 F and a 26.5, I forget which is which. One's for carbon monoxide detection inspection and one's for smoke detectors.
They were all ionized. There wasn't one photoelectric in the house.
Yeah, that's
why
probably, it doesn't sound like that would be correct, especially if they've been replaced. So, if nothing else, if that particular fire department, I don't want to speak about any fire departments, because generally they're usually pretty good about, especially with those type of inspections. You either want to talk to a builder or an electrician, because the electricians are up on a lot of the codes, and advise your homeowner that they have them updated.
I just advised them, you price it out, I advise him once you close to
Yes.
upgrade to the proper photo, because he's a builder, so he knows, he's like, this should be photoelectric, and this should be this, and this should be that, so I just was wondering how that could have happened. How they
Well,
figured out the,
Actually,
Smoke
most
search for-
times, in my understanding, you wouldn't be able to pass without a fire department inspection.
No, the fire department
And they let it
inspected,
go.
but it was just.
They let it go.
didn't-
Yeah.
they let it go.
Yeah, that's, I mean, mistakes happen, I guess, but if, for your own perspective, you probably want to tell them to update it. Talk to an electrician and have them at least update what's there.
It's done.
Yeah, that it's done correctly. I mean, updating the whole house is a different conversation, but you would at least want to, for your own peace of mind, tell them to update it. Anyway.
I just,
I just want to say how relevant this is. This is so funny. I get a call this morning from a seller, and he's thinking about the spring or maybe now, and what's the price.
that's it.
And he said, Anne Marie, I've got one thing. Is it going to be an issue? I have an unpermitted room in the basement. So how perfect is this today to be here? Isn't that funny? So they're aware, he's aware.
More often than not, they are.
Yeah.
To be honest honest with you. And tell your clients too, the assessors will get you sooner or later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Over and over and over.
All the
I
time.
don't wanna build a
Permit, 'cause
They're gonna get your tax dollars regardless if you get a permit or not. I hate to
Thank
tell
you. I'm so glad you hit on that.
Of the like thousands of households every day that are replacing appliances and maybe half of them are gas replacements, how many permits really are pulled for appliance replacements?
Any reputable, to be honest with you, any reputable contractor will pull them. We get them a lot.
Especially with gas. They're covering themselves.
Yeah, just a quick thing, Mike had hit upon the homeowners. So what happens in a lot of towns, the plumber or and/or electrician, they don't often do what's called standing the permit, the inspection. So a lot of times it's kind of up to the homeowner to be there to let the particular inspector in. So the ones that work in town regularly, they kind of get that arranged. I have actually had one electrician that refuses to call for the inspection and thinks it's the homeowner's obligation. You should get that straightened out with your whoever you're buying the appliance from. Just make sure that the permit's pulled, and if you're responsible for letting the inspector in, find that out.
Yeah.
So then you'll know if the inspector does show up. Because oftentimes, the plumber and electrician don't want to stay, and nor do you want to pay them $60 or $70 an hour to stand the inspection. So most inspectors are pretty good about that. They don't actually have to have the particular tradesperson there. Well, some towns are different, but generally, they'll go in as long as somebody will let them in. An adult, by the way, too. We will not enter a structure with teenagers. And I've had that happen, we just turn around. You've all been there, so.